comment to you. Okay? And as I go through it, I'm going to ask questions as I go through it. And you take these questions, some of you scholarly, you can write it down, it's up to you. But faith comes by
hearing.
And hearing what?
By the word of Yah.
All right. But we got a what going on in the land today?
A famine.
Well, how do we get past that then? How do we get past the famine? How do we even recognize? Now, these ain't the 10 questions. I may have 25 questions in, I guess. These ain't the 10. I'm just asking some more questions. But how do we get past that? How do you even recognize if you are participating willingly in the famine? You got to ask yourself this type of stuff. Is the word having an effect on my life where it's constantly bringing about change in me? Do I fast? Do I pray? Do I meditate? Do I immerse myself? These are words we hear all the time. What is the answer to these questions, though? And are you lying to Yah? Are you trying to deceive Yah with the answers when they pertain to you? You know, pastors and ministers get up here, look to your left, look to your right, look around. Look at yourself. Look at you. Look at you. Don't worry about what's going on to the right or to the left, because you can't do nothing for them noways. You're going to either hinder them or be a good example for them to follow. That's it. So if you keep striving, you got nothing to worry about. And if they don't follow your lead, that's on them. We understand? All right, we're going to go to Psalms. And we're going to read we're going to read 78th Psalm, okay? A little lengthy, but I'll get through it. And again, I'm giving you pre-information. If you want to write this down, I don't know if it's being recorded or not, you can see it later. But I'm going to read the 78th Psalm, and as I read it, I'm going to insert these questions that we need to have on our mind. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Lord the King. Give ear, O my people, to my law. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. I will open up my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old, which we have heard and known, and our fathers have told us. Will we not hide them from their children, showing to the generations to come the praises of the Master and his strength and his wonderful works that he hath done? Question number 1. Do your children know the praises, the strength, and the wonderful works that Yah has done for his people? For he has established a testimony in Jacob and appointed a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers that they should make them known to their children, that the generations to come might know them. Even the children which should be born, who should arise and declare them to their children, that they might set their hope in Yah, and not forget the works of God, of Yah, but keep his commandments, and might not be as their fathers, a stubborn and rebellious generation, a generation that set not their heart aright, and whose spirit was not steadfast with Yah. Let's define steadfast. That's Hebrew 5:39. It means to support, to confirm, to be faithful, uphold, to nourish. Question number 2. Is your spirit steadfast in Yah? Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
The children of Ephraim being armed and carrying bows, turned back in the day of battle. They kept not the covenant of Yahweh, and refused to walk in his law, and forgot his works and his wonders that he had shown them. Marvelous things he did in the sight of their fathers, in the land of Egypt, in the field of Zoan. He divided the sea and caused them to pass through, and he made the waters to stand as an heap. Before I go further, question number 3. Do you keep the covenant of Yah and walk in his laws? Do you keep them? Hallelujah. I think we're at verse 14. In the daytime also he led them with a cloud, and all the night with a light of fire. He cleaved the rocks in the wilderness and gave them drink as out of the great depths. He brought streams also out of the rock and caused waters to run down like rivers. And they sinned yet more against him by provoking the Most High in the wilderness. And they tempted Yah in their hearts by asking meat for their lust. Question number 4. Do you tempt Yah in your heart with the things you think? Do you tempt Yah in your heart with the things you think? Hallelujah. And, yea, they spake against Yah. They said, can Yah furnish a table in the wilderness? Behold, he smote the rock that the waters gushed out and the stream overflowed. Can he give bread also? Can he provide flesh for his people? These are all questions in the heart. Therefore Yahweh heard this and was wroth. So a fire was kindled against Jacob, and anger also came up against Israel, because they believed not in Yah and trusted not in his salvation. Though he had commanded the clouds from above and opened the doors of heaven, and had rained down manna upon them to eat, and had given them of the corn of heaven. Man did eat angels' food. He set them meat to be full. He caused the east wind to blow in the heavens, and by his power he brought in the south wind. He rained fresh also upon them as dust, and feathered fowls like as the sand of the sea. Listen, saints, pay attention. And he let it fall in the midst of their camp, round about their habitations. So they did eat and were well filled, for he gave them their own desires. They were not estranged from their lust. But while their meat was yet in their mouths, the wrath of Yah came upon them, and slew the fattest of them, and smote down the chosen men of Israel. Now some of you, when you hear that, you will think elders and pastors and all that. That's not what that's talking about, though. It's literally talking about the young men. That's what it's talking about. For all this they sinned still, and believe not for his wondrous works. Question number 5. Are you continuing in sin? Are you continuing in sin? Therefore, their days did he consume in vanity, and their years in trouble. When he slew them, then they sought him. And they returned and inquired early after Yah. And they remembered that Yah was their rock, and the high Yah their redeemer. Nevertheless, they did flatter him with their mouths, and they lied unto him with their tongues. Question number 6. Do you flatter with your mouth? And do you lie with your tongue to Yah? Do you flatter with your mouth and lie with your tongue unto Yah? For their hearts was not right with him, neither were they steadfast in his covenant. But he, being full of compassion, forgave their iniquity and destroyed them not. Yea, many a time turned he his anger away and did not stir up all his wrath. Thank you, Yah. Hallelujah. For he remembered that they were but flesh, a wind that passeth away and cometh not again. How oft did they provoke him in the wilderness and grieve him in the desert? Yea, they turned back and tempted Yah and limited the Holy One of Israel. Number 7. Do you limit the power of Yah? They remember not his hand, nor the day when he delivered them from the enemy. How he had wrought his signs in Egypt and his wonders in the field of Zon, and had turned their rivers into blood, and their floods that they could not drink. He sent divers sorts of flies among them, which devoured them, and frogs which destroyed them. He gave also their increase unto the caterpillar, and their labor unto the locust. He destroyed their vines with hail, and the sycamore trees with frost. He gave up their cattle also to the hail, and their flocks to hot thunderbolts. He cast upon them the fierceness of his anger, wrath, and indignation, and trouble by sending evil angels among them. He made a way to his anger. He spared not their soul from death, but gave their life over to the pestilence, and smote all the firstborn in Egypt, the chief of their strength in the tabernacle of Ham. Number 8. Are you cursed of Yahweh because of your disobedience? Are you cursed of Yahweh because of your disobedience? Verse 52. But made his own people to go forth like sheep, and guided them in the wilderness like a flock. And he led them on safely, so that they feared not. But the sea overwhelmed their enemies. And he brought them to the border of his sanctuary, even to his mountain, which his right hand had purchased. He cast out the heathen also before them, and divided them an inheritance by line, and made the tribes of Israel to dwell in their tents. Yet they tempted and provoked the Most High Yah, and kept not his testimonies, but turned back and dealt unfaithfully. Like their fathers, they were turned aside like a deceitful bow. For they provoked him to anger with their high places, and moved him to jealousy with their graven images. When Yah heard this, he was wroth and greatly abhorred Israel. Let's look at that word abhorred. That's Hebrew 39:88. That means Yah rejected us. He despised us. And he refused us. Question number 9. Are you still tempting, provoking Yah with your unfaithfulness? Are you still tempting or provoking Yah with your unfaithfulness? So that he forsook the tabernacle of Shiloh, the tent which he placed among men, and delivered his strength into captivity and his glory into the enemy's hand. He gave his people over also unto the sword, and was wroth with his inheritance. The fire consumed their young men, and their maidens.